joined by Eddie Hearn twice in 2 days.
There you go, mate. I'm freely available.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Available for weddings, bar mitzvahs, christenings, anything.
Great. I'm going to get your rates at the end of the interview.
Yeah.
Today, great weighing, really good turnout with the media, etc. Tell me about what was being said between Jojo Diaz and Devin Haney.
It wasn't anything overly intellectual. Devin Haney said, "You're a bum, and I'm going to knock you out." And Jojo Diaz said, "Exchange with me. This is my show." And Devin Haney said, "You're a bum. I'm going to knock you out." And then Jojo Diaz said something similar, and then that was pretty standard stuff, really. It's good. You know, I'm excited for Devin because there's a lot of people talking about how good he is, but talk's talk. You know, you don't really know how good someone is until they fight elite opposition. And he's coming off Gamboa, who was past his best. Then he boxed Linares, who actually I think came into that fight in great shape, but you know, some will say was slightly past his best. Now he fights an elite fighter in his prime, in Jojo Diaz. And Jojo feels that he should be the favourite really in this fight. I think he's a little bit offended almost. So we'll see. And you know, Robert Diaz over there from Golden Boy, they truly believe Jojo will win the fight, and that adds a little bit more to it because there's a lot on the line for us as well. You know, we see Devin as part of our future in this country, and it's a big fight tomorrow night.
On that note, I spoke to Diaz's trainer yesterday, and they feel they're going to stop Devin in the later rounds. Has Devin got a cool head on him? Is he capable of not doing what he did a few weeks ago?
I mean, he's inexperienced, really, at that level. But that's when fights like the Linares fight are so important because he got buzzed in that fight at the end of the round. He controlled that fight. Then he decided to sit in the pocket and entertain. And when he did, he got hit by a huge right hand at the end of the round, stiffened his legs, and he went back. You know, next round he was holding a bit, but he recovered. But the experience you learn from that is going to put him in great stead. I wouldn't say that Jojo Diaz hits like Linares hits, but he's a volume puncher and he's a crafty fighter. And he's an Olympian. You know, he's a very, very good fighter, well-rounded. And I go back to him feeling a little bit almost like, not insulted, but he feels like he's the favourite because of his resume.
Couldn't jump onto the undercard, Eddie. Montana, probably one of the best names in boxing, name-wise. A real cool name. I've been following Montana for quite a while on Instagram. I don't know if you've seen any of his videos where he gets dressed up as a superhero and he's doing all that crazy paddling with blindfolds on. I don't know if that was the reason why you signed him, but
I signed him because of the Jake Paul show that I saw. I just thought, wow, who is this kid? I thought, what a star. I mean, the fight with Barancic was brilliant, but all of a sudden he's on the turnbuckle beating his chest, you know, and I couldn't believe that he wasn't signed. You know, undefeated, 16-0. He's top 15 with a couple of governing bodies. He's actually got a really tough fight tomorrow night. Carlos Diaz, who got beaten once by Zepeda from Guadalajara. We know him. He's a good fighter, really tough. That'd be a good fight. But I think Montana Love, if he's got the ability, it's going to be a big star, and especially with his dog.
You know. Did something different. Obviously, brought his dog on stage, which people love quirky stuff. Obviously, he's in a packed-out weight division. Is there any plans to potentially bring him to the UK? Because it seems like a guy.
I mean, look, next week we've got quite a big fight for Robbie Davis Jr. against Hank Lundy in Liverpool. If Robbie Davis Jr. wins that fight, there's a decent fight. You've got other British 140-pounders as well. You've got Lewis Ritson. You've got Ricky Burns might move up there. You know, you've got obviously Jack Catchell looks like he could fight Josh Taylor. But sooner or later, when there's an undisputed champion, those belts fragment. And you've got to then be placed to take one of those belts. And I feel like Montana, with a couple of good victories, could be in line to pick up one of those floating belts.
Sweet. And on the undercard, is there a particular fight that you think this is going to be the fight of the night? Because you normally have one, don't you?
That one. You know, I love the Montana Love fight. There's a couple earlier on as well you should look out for. Amari Jones in a really tough fight. And it was one of those where his opponent fell out and this kid was ready, but it's the wrong fight for Amari. Do you know what I mean? But it was either take this fight or you're not going to fight on the card. Amo Williams in a good fight. Great to see him back as well. Mark Castro. Philip Hergovich, I think one of the top heavyweights in the world. Jessica McCaskill, always in really entertaining fights. All the belts in the welterweight division on the line. And, you know, a good card, of course. Everyone's talking about the main event, but it's going to be a good night of boxing.
Obviously, the Zone have had another show on earlier on today over in Spain. I want to ask you about Campbell Hatton. So his knockout win. great for him, obviously, especially after what happened in the previous fight. I'm just looking through the comments on Instagram. I feel like the boy can't win.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're in the public eye and you go through comments on Instagram, I think it's a really lonely place to be. Do you know what I mean? Like, I do it, and I shouldn't do it, but I do it more a lot of the time for actual feedback from my customers. Do you know what I mean? And I just feel that if you're a fighter, you just shouldn't be looking like you can't win, can you? You know, on one stage, we shouldn't be putting him on in front of 60,000 in a fight like that because it's too much pressure. And then you take him on a smaller card against an easier opponent, and the opponent's a joke. Do you know what I mean?
Point. So you feel like you can't win.
You can't win. So therefore, don't try and win. Do your thing. Do you know what I mean? These people that are making those comments, when is a hater ever achieved more or more successful than the person they're hating? Ask yourself that question. Do you know what I mean? So Campbell Hatton is a young kid working his bollocks off every day, chasing a dream. But in our country, we have a consistency, don't we, of trying to knock people down. Why wouldn't you just say to Campbell, good luck to the kid? Like, if you met him, I don't know if you met him, I've met him, he couldn't be a nicer bloke. Do you know what I mean? So therefore, why try and bring him down, or why criticise him? Now, you're fans, you get the chance to do that, and it's your right to do that. But at the same time, you know, if you're Campbell Hatton, you get out of that ring tonight, you know, and you think, oh, you know, I'm all right now, you know, that's a good performance, got my first one.
I saw some of the comments, people saying he took a dive, all that sort of stuff.
He took a dive, he just weren't very good.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but the kid's a novice. He's had 4 fights. He had a tough fight last time out, and it's partly my fault that I've put him on these big stages. But Campbell gave a really good interview today where he said, bits of both are good for me. He said that the experience and what I've learned from those nights, you could never buy. But trips like this are good for me too. It wasn't under the radar. It was a busy arena, but it's not like, you know, a UK show with everyone watching and just. So I think he should rematch that kid, by the way, at some point in the next fight or two. But that was a nice for him tonight, you know. And Ricky said it best. We know there's many more levels. We've got blimey, but he's a novice. Let him do his thing. And if you've got something negative to say, don't say it at all. You know what I mean?
That takes me on to the pressures of matchmaking. Are you under now more pressure to deliver 50-50 fights or 60-40 fights on the zone than you were on the Sky? Because obviously a lot of your fights took losses recently.
I think we've got more budget, so we'd rather. One of the biggest mistakes you make as a promoter and a matchmaker is to make a fight that you know deep down is not a good fight. Do you know what I mean? When a kid is learning like Campbell Hatton, you have to acknowledge that some fights aren't going to be great, right? But the mistake that we made previously was we didn't have the budget to allow us to make fights. Good example, Liam Smith against Anthony Fowler, right? We could have paid them good money for a shit fight, both of them, on the same card. So now we're in a position where we can actually say, guys, I actually think you two, for big money, in a packed out arena, would be brilliant. And luckily, in that occasion, both guys went, we're up for it. Do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So, matchmaking is difficult, especially because you're always working on a budget. Do you know what I mean? But actually, sometimes it's better to invest and make a bigger fight for that guy and a better fight. Because the mistakes that I've made over the last few years is just getting guys out in poor fights because the money's not there. So you've got to pay this guy 50 grand. Yeah? And your budget for the opponent is 15 grand. Well, you know you ain't going to make a good fight. You know what I mean? But why not give that guy 100 and then give someone else 70 or 80 to fight him in a brilliant fight?
Makes
Do you know what I
sense.
mean? But you can only do that. If you do that when the budget's not there, you're losing money. And then you're running a shit business. It's not what we do. So now we've got the mix right. There's a lot we've only been, you think, really the first show on the Zone, real show, was Warrington in September. So we're only in November, just coming into December. So it's early days, but I'm pleased with how everything's going. Great run to finish next week in Liverpool and in Manchester.
and we've got big plans for next year.
Just a couple of last quick questions for you. On the subject of famous boxing sons, Prince Nassim's sons, he's indicated he's going to be turning professional soon. Has there been any contact between yourself and Adam Hamid? And
No, but you know, that story is always compelling, isn't it? Conor Benn, Chris Eubank, Campbell Hatton, Nazzy's boys. So, you know, if the opportunity presents itself to have a chat, we've got a decent relationship with Naz, I think. You know. So yeah, good luck to him. It'd be great to welcome him into the world of boxing.
And just quickly on Dillian White's situation, it's been talked about where he's potentially going to have to wait a long time if obviously there's a step aside deal. If this arbitration goes on potentially for months and months, is he risking a situation where he could wait 12 months potentially still in the same boat?
I don't think so. No, I think the ruling's too deep. You know, the arbitration process, the legal process is too deep. I believe that's going to get ordered. It's just a case of when, you know, and not just a case of getting ordered at a fair split. That's another thing that is slowing down this process a little bit. So, but no, I think he's in a good position.
Eddie, thank you so much for your time.
No problem.
Speak soon.